Thank you for staying. I really appreciate talking to people rather than empty rooms, so I do appreciate your presence. Righty, let's get stuck into the penultimate presentation of the day. I've got quite a hard sell here because I'm presenting on methodology. Yeah, everyone else is doing these ta-da kind of findings, and I'm here to talk about methodology, but I'll see what I can do. I'm really passionate about it, so I'm hoping that that will sort of come across somehow. So tēnā koutou katoa, my name is Kate Revell. I am a third-year PhD candidate with just a few months to go, and I'm looking at something that is only slightly related to health. I'm under the lovely Chris, and because of that, I'm in health, but I'm actually looking at student engagement in performing arts education. So dance, drama and music. So wildly different topic for you this afternoon. While the focus of this presentation is very much on, I'm aware I'm using my teacher voice, and yet there's a microphone. Am I sort of blasting you? Okay, if anyone sort of does this, I'll take the message. The focus of this presentation is very much on methodology, but I kind of figured I needed to backtrack a little bit and tell you a bit about my research. So here we go. So I'm a performing arts educator, in case you can't tell. And over the past decade, I've been working with adolescent students. So we're talking year 7, 8, 11 to 13-year-olds. And I've become concerned about what I perceive to be a decline in student engagement. So we're talking about switching off. We're talking about choosing not to participate in lessons, to not pipe up and sort of just shut down in the adolescent way. And this became the focus of 2 PhD studies. So both of the studies were framed by social constructionism, which, for those of us that aren't aware, is a theory that kind of suggests that our understanding of reality is shaped by social reactions, social interactions such as this, the language that we use, and shared cultural norms. So I conducted 2 studies, as I said, one with teachers and one with students. And we worked together to find out 2 things. Firstly, what impacts student engagement in performing arts lessons in years 7 and 8, and also as the teachers, what we could do about it. So we used a range of qualitative and quantitative research methods. If you just want to cast your eye down that list rather than me reading them to you. And in a nutshell, that's what the findings boiled down to. So we found that adolescents need to feel safe to take risks. They need to, if you want them to engage, you have to give them experiential learning tasks. They have to be doing, hands-on stuff to play with. And they like lots of choice. So that wraps up my overview. If you have any questions about my research and the findings, please come and hit me up over a cup of tea later on this afternoon. But let's move on to the hot topic of hybrid methodologies, which I am very passionate about. The whakatauki I chose for today, anyone would think that I copied. Whose was it this morning? Was it? Someone did this exact whakatauki, but I promise this was on the page. So I have chosen is mā te kimi ka kite, mā te kite ka mohio, mā te mohio ka marama. And as researchers, this is the holy grail. This is what we're all looking for. But my journey did not start here. In fact, it hasn't always been easy. As an emerging researcher, I started from a much darker place. In fact, over the last 3 years, I've spent all but the last few months metaphorically sitting here. So I wonder what you see when you look at this image. Maybe it's the grey clothes, or the grey sand, or the grey sea, or the grey sky. I use this image to represent the idea of sitting in the grey. Specifically, this refers to the idea of not fully being aligned with one methodology. So you're not quite one, and you're not quite the other. You're sort of borrowing bits from both, and you're sat in the middle. You are sat in the grey. So the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be talking about how I moved from sitting in the grey to a place with a rainbow. So it does have a happy ending, I promise. So to give you a bit of a picture, for both of my studies, I used a methodology called action research, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, or most of us. And that consists of a diverse family of practices, some of which are on the screen. But the two that we're concerned with today are called participatory action research and collaborative action research. Now, I set out to conduct two participatory action research projects. You can already see that something's going to go wrong, can't you? I set out to do two of these projects. Both of them were designed with these kind of ideas in mind. So it's a form of action research that prioritises social justice, research in context. So you're working with the participants as co-researchers, and you're making decisions together and choosing your research methods together and so forth. But while I was conducting these studies, I just had this little niggle at the back of my head. I think I might be doing something wrong. And when it came to the write-up phase, lo and behold, I've got some ticks, haven't I? But I haven't got a tick in all of the boxes. So you can imagine that was huge imposter syndrome, failure, feelings of, oh my gosh, am I going to get my PhD? All this kind of very grandiose, being a drama teacher, everything's very big, you know. So if literature is to be adhered to on participatory action research, I had failed to conduct a participatory action research project. Instead, I discovered that my projects lay in this kind of grey area between participatory action research and collaborative action research. Let's see how many of those boxes I ticked. So, again, most of them. But clearly, I was sitting in the middle between these two methodologies. Ta-da! And there I am, magically appearing, a slightly slimmer AI version of me. Thank you to Canva. I told them my age, I told them my height, I told them my hair, and look what it came up with. Beautiful. So I wondered, why have I ended up here? Is it just that I am a really poor researcher and I'm just really bad at this whole participatory action research thing? So I re-engaged with action research literature, and fortunately I found a few theorists whose perspectives suggested that it was not just okay to sit in the grey, but actually there was strength to being there. And so a rainbow appeared on the horizon, and here it is. So I love this quote by Cotto Lundberg, which draws attention to the potential of sitting in the grey, and the more I thought about this, the more it was true. Why had I failed to tick every box? Well, in doing so, I had met the needs of the participants. If we just go back, if we have a look at the one that says flattened hierarchy on the left of the screen, shared power, it's not ticked, right? That's because the co-participants, the teachers in the second study, they wanted me to be a leader at times. They wanted me to facilitate. They didn't want the workload that comes with facilitating a project. So at times I stepped in and I took a lead because they endowed me with that. But at other times, they made all the decisions and they took over leadership. So really, I can't put a tick in the box, but surely what I was doing instead was finding a place that was better for the participants, better for the research, and better for their contexts. So Bradbury encourages researchers to mix practices to match situations, and I think that was what I was doing. So clearly there are strong reasons for not ticking every box, not when it's in the interests of the participants and the real-world contexts in which the journey is taking place. So I'm going to slide through this slide quite quickly. I think that the strengths of this idea of sitting in the grey or hybrid methodology is that you can embrace the complexities that come with real-world research. You can improve your responsiveness to your participants. It does become more valid because you're aligning with the contexts in which the research is taking place. I suddenly gained confidence in myself. I was no more an imposter, just a mini imposter every, second day. You know what it's like when you're a PhD student. And I felt like if I was to do this all over again, sort of seeing this idea of hybrid methodologies would give me the freedom to actually be a bit more transformative. So it's at this point I'd like to draw a metaphor. I now see action research as a work of art, and myself, a researcher, as an artist. As an artist, my palette contains a range of colours, aka tools, traditions, and methodologies. And this allows me to choose the colours alongside participants to suit the context. And to illustrate this metaphor, I have created a heuristic that embraces and celebrates the qualities inherent in hybridity. So, for those of us that have, I'm going to do something a bit cheesy now, for those of us that have shades in the room, this is the point to put on your shades. Because we're no longer sitting in the grey. I don't know why I've become American. Sorry. I don't know why putting on my shades suddenly makes me have an American. Sorry about that. Anyway, it's about to get bright. We're no longer sitting in the grey. So I produced this heuristic, which there are lots of small words, and they are on the screen, and I appreciate this. It's going to fill the screen, just letting you know. But I think this is useful, so I'm just going to go for it. So you start as an action researcher by thinking what your purpose or your purposes are. You then go on to think my outcomes. So you're choosing colours as you go. You then go on to think about the underpinning, the paradigm, the power dynamic, participant role, research design, and your research methods. So the idea is that you start at the top of the slide, and as a researcher, you choose the colours that are best for your context and for your participants. Hopefully that makes sense. So your palette, this is your palette, and you just pop your little paintbrush in a colour and then use that. Now, the whole idea of this is that you have to be prepared to continue working on your piece of work as your research progresses. This is not by any means a finished product. Remember, I'm a social constructionist. So this is not a universal truth. This is just a kind of working model. So if we have a look at my second project, I've circled where I think my project lay. And this is, of course, in retrospect. So you can see that there's some sort of ideas in there that are quite contrasting. So she's kind of a little bit, on the fourth one down, she's kind of a little bit qualitative and a little bit mixed methods. Oh, and her power dynamic is a little bit facilitator-led and a little bit shared. Does that make sense? So you kind of end up acknowledging the methodologies that you have chosen and where it sits. However, a palette such as this invariably comes with problems, such as philosophical compatibility. You might have already thought of that one if you're a deep thinker. Conflicting data types. Yep, I had that. Compromised validity, depending upon how you're looking at it. Ethical complexities. We definitely had that, didn't we, Chris? Yep, I got a nod there. Researcher well-being. Yeah, I'd say that there's, because you're saying, I'm happy for it to be in flux. I'm happy for things to be fluid. And that obviously comes with challenges. So here are my mitigating ideas. The idea is that you articulate your rationale throughout. Justify and document all methodological choices. Stay aligned with the values, the needs, and the lived realities of your participants and the research context. Remain open to diverse perspectives rather than seeking fixed truths, and implement evaluation checks that are sensitive to power dynamics and participant well-being. So, as we reach the end of the presentation, I don't know how many more minutes I've got left. Oh, I'll be quick. Let's summarise. My overarching message, that's like a rainbow, by the way. Everything's about colour today. Instead of resisting or oversimplifying the complexities and ambiguities, action researchers instead learn to work with them and recognise them as an opportunity to create a unique piece of art that can be shaped by the context, by the researcher, and by the participants. I'm going to end with a fun fact. The human eye, this is like one of those where I think I probably need to do a double check because it sounds crazy. The human eye can detect 10 million different shades and tones. Let's apply the same principle to action research by embracing nuance and subtlety in hybrid methodologies. Thank you. Bibliography, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ronnie. And, and I'm hoping to present this at RA. RA? Thank you very much.
Association of Research and Education.
Yeah, if I can get the money together, I've got the abstract accepted. So no, I wasn't going there, but that's great. If anyone knows of any funds, I'm really looking for funds. But I would love some constructive feedback as to how I could make it a more academic, rather than me prancing around at the front. Any feedback would be gratefully received. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.